Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's lesson is called Comparison Statements. And our goal today is that we're going to reason, which reason just means make sense, about multiplying fractions by writing comparison statements. So even though this unit is on multiplying fractions, there's a lot of other lessons that they throw in here. This one can be a little bit tricky, but if you follow the steps, it'll really simplify it for you. Okay, we do have two vocab words. Our first one is one we've had a lot. It is factors. Factors are the numbers, whoops, my pen's not working. The numbers in a multiplication problem. So if I had 3 times 5, these are my factors. I could have 12 times 9. Those are my factors, okay? All right, the constant is a new word for us. A constant is a number that does not change. So it remains constant. It stays the same. Okay, our notes tonight are a little bit different. We're going to practice comparing some numbers. So if I had 40 and 20, what could I say about them? How could I compare 40 to 20? I could say 40 is 2 times more than 20. I could also say 40 is double 20. Okay, before I keep going down, let's go over here. What could I say about 20 to 40 though? What is 20 compared to 40? Well, it is actually 20 is half of 40. Notice how when it was 40 to 20, it was 2 times, but then when I switched it, it's 20 to 40, it's half of. Notice that pattern we're going to see with those 2's. Okay, let's try another one. What is 15 compared to 5? 15 is 3 times more. I could also say 15 is triple 5. It's triple or 3 times. Okay, let's come up to here though to 5 to 15. Well, this one's smaller, so it's not going to be times more. It's probably going to be a fraction. So let's think about what fraction it is. How many of these does it take to get to 15? Hopefully you've realized it takes 3 5s. So it's 1/3 of 15. Because if we had 3 of them, we would get to this. And notice again this pattern. It was 3 when it was the larger number was in front. But then when we put the smaller number in front, then it becomes the fraction 1/3. Okay, the other ones are just miscellaneous ones. So what do you think this fraction would be if we went from 10 to 5? So let's think. How many 20s did it take to get to 40? It takes 2 20s to get to 40. So look at what the fraction is. How many 5s did it take to get to 15? Hopefully you're thinking 3. So look what our fraction is. So how many 10s is it going to take to get to 50? Hopefully you're thinking 5. So what do you think the fraction would be? I'm hoping you guessed 10 is 1/5 of 50. What about 2 to 8? How many 2's is it going to take to get to 8? Hopefully you came up with 4. So what would your fraction be? It's 1/4 of 8. Okay, now this one's not going to be a fraction because this one's bigger. This is more than this. So how many more than this? How many more? What would I have to multiply this by? Because if we look at our easier ones, this was 2 times more because 20 times 2 gets me this. what is this going to need to be multiplied to get to this? Hopefully you're thinking 10 times more. So those are just practicing writing some comparison statements. Okay, the next thing you're going to need to know before we even start our steps is kind of a reminder of area. So you did area in 4th grade. Area is when you find the space inside a flat shape. So this is called a two-dimensional shape. So area is when you find all the space inside of it. So hopefully you remember the formula for finding area is length times width. And it's usually put in cursive, because if I didn't put it in cursive and I wrote it like that, people might think it's a 1. So we usually put it in cursive. So we're not going to use that. Okay, so I'm going to add some numbers here. So what if this had told me 5 feet and this one was 12? So what is my area in here? So the way I would find this area is I would use this. It's called a formula. So it's length times width. Well, my length is 12. My feet is 5. So I'm getting 60 feet. And we actually put a little exponent up there called squared, because your answer is always going to be squared. Okay, so what if on this one I said this was 6 inches and this is 7 inches? I'll give you a second to try that one. So what is my length and my width? I'm going to multiply them. Hopefully you beat me to this. 6 times 7 is 42, and I'm going to put my measurement inches squared. Okay, here's another one. 13 centimeters and 4 centimeters. I'll give you some time to try that. This one isn't a basic fact, so I might have to come down here and do side work to figure that one out. I'm getting 52. So my answer would be 52 centimeters squared. Okay, hopefully this was just a refresher from last year. Okay, now we're into the real stuff, our steps. Okay, there's only 3 of them. The first step says we're going to set up the 2 different numbers with space between them. You're going to want a pretty good space, and you'll see how I do it when I do mine. So I'm not setting up the constant numbers. I'm going to find the different numbers. And then I'm going to fill in the blank with the correct comparison. And then I'm going to write a comparison statement using keywords, using words from the question. Okay, so what does this actually look like? So let me get mine. All right, here's my first one. I'm going to put my steps back up so we can look at them. My first one says, Gaby cut a piece of material with a width of 3 yards and a length of 50 yards. I might underline those so I can pay attention. So Gaby's has a width of 3 yards and a length of 50 yards. Her mother cut a second piece of material that also had so her mother has a length of 50 yards. Okay, her mother wanted her piece of material to have an area that is double. Okay, so nothing like our first problem being one of the trickiest ones. Okay, so this one, we had some numbers. We had Gaby's number is 3 yards and 50 yards. And then we have her mother's is just 50. They don't tell us the other one. So we're not going to actually use our 50s because those are constants. Those don't help us. We want the different numbers. The problem is they didn't give us the different numbers here. Okay, they didn't give us the different one. Okay, what they did tell us though is her mom wants it to be double. So they said her mother wanted her piece of material to have an area that's double. So we need this other number to be double. So what would we have to do to make this a double? Because she wants, when we compare them, her mom wants hers double. Well, hopefully you're thinking, what does double mean? Double would be times 2. So this one, they told us that this one's going to be double. So this one we're going to look for, sorry, I'm not going to write that, a 6. Now this one I didn't really follow my steps because they didn't give me the different numbers. They kind of tricked me and told me the comparison. Okay, so my answer is just 6 here. How wide will Gabby's mother have to cut her piece of material? So for this one, the answer is she'd have to cut it 6 yards. Okay, so notice I didn't really have to follow the steps on that one, again, because they already gave me the comparison. Okay, this one we're going to need to, because this is actually going to ask us to compare some. Okay, how does the product, oh, and hopefully remember what product means, of 736 times 140 compared to the product of 736 times 1,400. Okay, so this one we are going to follow our steps because they're asking for us to find the comparison. They want us to compare. So this time I'm going to set up the 2 different numbers. Well, if I look, what do I have? I have these numbers and these numbers. Those are constants. They're not going to help me because they're the same. Here's my different numbers. So my different numbers are 140 and 1,400. And I'm going to write them in the order that they give them to me. Okay, now I'm going to fill in the blank with the correct comparison. What is this compared to this? Is this going to be a times more, or is this going to be a fraction of this? And if you're not sure, you can look up here. When the smaller ones were here and the bigger ones were here, it's a fraction. Ooh, so what fraction is that? How many of these would it take to get to that? Hopefully you're thinking 10, which means my fraction is, this is 1/10 of this. So step 2 is I wrote this comparison statement in the middle. Okay, step 3 is now I actually have to write the whole sentence because they're going to expect a sentence. So I would say, what are my key words here? What are they talking about? Oh, they're talking about products. So for this one, I could say the first product is 1/10 of the second product. And here's my comparison statement. And I would be done. That's how I would attack them. So if they're asking for a comparison statement, we're going to follow those steps. Okay, let's try some together because this is one of our harder lessons. All right, looking at the bottom. Okay, it says Melia's flashlight shines 4 feet in front of her. Dave's flashlight shines 12 feet in front of him. How many times farther does Dave's flashlight compare to Melia's? Okay, this one they have thrown so many tricks at us that we just need to not get tricked. So they have Melia's at 4 feet and Dave's at 12 feet. Okay, but look what they did with our question. When they asked us the question, they said, how many times farther does Dave's compare to Melia's? So because the question asks Dave's first, I'm actually going to put Dave's first. That was a really tricky one. So whatever the question set up, you want to follow that. So we're going to compare Dave's to Melia's. Okay, well, here we only have one set of numbers and they're different. So Dave's number is 12 and Melia's number is 4. Okay, so that would be step one. So a few things. Notice how I looked at the question to see which order they wanted me to put in, and then I put my different numbers with space in between. Okay, my second step says let's write a comparison. What is 12 compared to 3? Well, 12 is bigger than 3, so it's going to be a times more. How many times more is it? Okay, it is 12 is 3 times more. All right, so now we're ready to actually write our statement. So what are key words? What's the question asking us? Well, the question's asking how much farther does Dave's flashlight shine? So they're talking about Dave's flashlight shining. So my sentence probably would be Dave's, and you could use just letters if you'd like. Dave's flashlight shines 3 times. And I don't know if I would say more, because if we're talking about distance, it might sound better if we say shines 3 times farther than Melia's. Oh, and I wrote Melia's, but I could have just put an M. This would be my statement. So my statement is answering my question with my comparison in it. Okay, let's try another one. Okay. Howard's room is 15 feet wide and 20 feet long. Okay, so we have that information. His parents' room is 15 feet wide and 40 feet long. Okay, how does the area of Howard's room compare to the area of his parents' room? Okay, so in the question, they're asking us Howard's room compared to his parents' room. Okay, so my first step is find the different number. Well, they're both 15 feet wide. That doesn't help me. But this one is 20 feet long, and this one is 40 feet long. So I took the different numbers. What were they different? Okay, so that's step one. Find the different numbers and make sure you set it up how the question's asking you. Okay, my next step is what's my comparison? What is 20 compared to 40? Well, 20 is half of 40. So my next step and final step is write a statement, and I have to look at the key words. What is the question asking me? So the question is saying how does the area of Howard's room? So they're asking about the area of Howard's room. So I might say the area of Howard, we could just do that, Howard's room is half of the area of his parents' room. So I answered the question using all the keywords. I kind of took a little shortcut with the names. And then I have my comparison statement. Okay, I know this is one of the trickier lessons. Try and follow the steps. On both of yours, they're both asking for comparison. So you're going to follow the steps on both your homework assignments, and then you're going to rate yourself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you tomorrow afternoon. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.